1969, I watched a movie called Easy Rider with Peter Fonda and I can't remember who the actor was. You can look it up. I saw these guys riding across the country on their Harley Davidsons, long hair, wild and free. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be free. To me, that represented freedom. What represents freedom to you? What dream or desire have you had inside of you since you were 9 or 5 or 10 or 15 years old? Have you chased that dream? I chased that dream. I wanted to be like those guys. Maybe not a very noble goal, some would consider, but to me it was my dream. When I was out on my grandma's farm in the Missouri countryside, I would watch the fighter jets back in the 60s go up and down, training to go to Vietnam. They would fly straight up and twirl as they went up and then come straight down like they were going to hit the ground. And then they would do the sonic boom. I wanted to fly one of those jets, but I didn't figure I was smart enough. Didn't like mathematics too much, but I dreamed about that too. But I knew I could one day be like those guys traveling across the country, partying, fighting, having women, and living a free life. So when I was 9 years old, I got my first motorcycle. It really wasn't a motorcycle, it was a Sears and Roebuck mini bike with a pull start, with a Briggs and Stratton motor. But that was the beginning. That was the beginning of my persistence and my perseverance to accomplish my dream. To be like those guys on Easy Rider, to have that freedom that they had. So I rode my mini bike around the country gravel roads on my grandma's farm, and I would hear those bigger motorcycles out on the highway, and I would dream about riding them. I couldn't see them, but I could hear them riding them. They were called Hadakas. They were bigger than my bike. They weren't Harleys, but they were bigger. And I imagined myself riding those bikes out on the highway, the real highway, not on the gravel road. Excuse me. I remember that. The sun would be setting and I would hear those guys riding those bikes. It was like magic to me. I imagined myself doing the same. And then when I was about 12, I got a 175 Honda street bike. Man, that was like a big motorcycle for me, red and white. I rode that thing all over. And then I ventured out on the highways, still dreaming of being like those guys on Easy Rider. You'll have to look that up and see what they look like. Quite the hippies back then. So I rode that bike quite some time, and when I was about 13, I was out on the highway and I come up on a state patrol roadblock. And I had that rebel free spirit in me, so I turned around and I tried to outrun them. But the clutch was slipping on the motorcycle, so I got to this gravel road I was going to shoot down. They were on my ass. So I had to stop, and they made me get in the car. They told me these horror stories about picking young people up on motorcycles, the pieces off the highway, off of kids like me who thought they could ride, but they got killed and got torn all to pieces. It didn't scare me. It didn't stop me. They told me the juvenile officer would be calling me when they let me go. But I never heard from him, and of course I went back riding on the roads again. So I rode till I was about 14 or 15, then I met a guy that had a 650 Yamaha. He was a little older than me. Man, it was a big motorcycle. So he would take me riding on that, and when I turned 16, I got a 650 Yamaha. It was a stock motorcycle, 650 Special it was called. I thought I was somebody, but still, it wasn't like those choppers, those Harley Davidsons that I saw those guys ride back in 1969 when I was a kid at the local movie theater. That freedom, I had to be like those guys. I had already started growing my hair longer, and one of the guys on the movie had a red and white, blue striped and stars motorcycle helmet. Well, I got that when I was 13. I persisted. I wanted to be like those guys. So by this time, I'm 16 years old. I got my 650 Yamaha. But I want that thing to be a chopper. I want it to be like those guys had on that movie. So a friend of mine and myself, we started working on it. We cut that thing up and we made it into a hardtail and turn it into a beautiful motorcycle. Had a lot of chrome work done, put a fat tire on the back of it. That thing was sharp, but it still wasn't like what those guys had on that movie. But I was starting to travel. I went to different places in the country, traveled on that. I would go party, my sleeping bag on her, and stay where I was at till winter I'm still alive. Did a lot of drinking and drugging and sleeping with women. Had a wonderful life, wild life. I wouldn't trade it for a thing. And then when I was 17 or 18, I got my first Harley Davidson. It was a 1951 shovelhead lower end, panhead lower end with a 66 shovelhead upper end. Now you gotta be a motorcycle guy to understand what that is. It's two motors put together, and it had a glide front end, a wide glide front end, which was extended, and it was a jockey shift, which meant it had a foot clutch and a hand shift. And I would ride that thing and party. I rode down to Louisiana State. I went out west. I went out west on my Yamaha, Phoenix, Arizona. Traveled all over the country, partied, Kansas City, different places, down south, Tennessee, Arkansas, I think. Through, Oklahoma, different places. And I was living the life. I finally achieved my dream. By the time I was 18 and 19, I was living the life of those guys that I watched back in 1969. Because I persisted in my dream. Many times it didn't look like I would ever achieve that. To me, to get a Harley Davidson back in 1977 was a big deal. Very few people had them back then. In my town, there was only 2 guys that had Harley Davidsons. You didn't see them very often. Now everybody has them. But back then it was a big deal. I traveled down to Bowling Green, Kentucky with a bunch of bikers and had a bike run down there, something like they have up in North Dakota, Sturgis, I think it is. Except this thing was the first and the last. They had 6 or 7 murders, I don't know how many hospitalizations. The club members, the gangs were there. They were fighting all night and killing each other. That was the last time they ever had it. The ambulance was in and out of there all night. But I lived and I experienced it, and that was my life. I liked that. That's what I wanted to live, like those guys I saw in that movie. By the time I was 19 years old, I was still riding, still partying, going to bars, living that life that I dreamed of when I was 9 years old, because I persisted. I persisted, even though it didn't look like I was ever going to have that life. I also wanted to be a tough guy, because I didn't like it when people bullied me. So when I was 16, I got the toughest guy I knew, and him and I would fight after we had a couple drinks, and he taught me how to fight. And I got better, and I got in fights, and I got better, and I got in more fights. And then when I was about 19, I got into a bar fight. Didn't turn out too good. I hit this guy a couple times, and then I picked up a chair and busted his friend's head open, and they run us out of the bar. I was only 19. And the guy came out with a knife and stabbed a friend of mine that was with us. He thought it was me, about killed him. I took the 9mm out of the truck, got back to the door, and my friends grabbed me and took it away from me. Fortunately, because I was like on automatic pilot. I was going to go in there, I suppose I was going to shoot somebody. Thank God they took the gun away from me. We had to take that guy to the hospital, and he did live, but he lost his spleen. So there I was the tough guy I wanted to be. But I thought, man, I don't like this. You never know what's going to happen in a bar fight. So my dream of being like the guys on the 1969 movie Easy Rider had come to pass. I had fulfilled all of that. So that was over. But I still wanted to be a tough guy, but I sure didn't want to fight in bars anymore after that. And I got in a lot of trouble for that. I got charged with assault with a deadly weapon. I had to do probation. I got out of it. It was off my record. So I decided, man, I better be doing something different. So I started boxing, because that went along with me wanting to be a tough guy. Since I was about 15 or 16, I got humiliated several times because I wouldn't fight. So I quit drinking and doing drugs and started fighting. I sold my motorcycle because it had fulfilled its purpose. I had achieved that dream. It was done. Now I'm persistent in fulfilling my dream of being a tough guy. I thought it was pretty tough when I fought out on the streets. I didn't know what tough was till I started getting into the ring with people who knew how to fight. But before I got in with some really tough guys, I was fighting out of a club in Hannibal, Missouri. And we fought the prison several times, and I won. And we went up there one time to fight them, and I fought this left-handed guy. And this guy knocked me down probably 2, 3, maybe 4 times, and I kept getting back up. I would go back to my corner between rounds, and I would hope they would stop the fight. But they wouldn't, and I was not going to quit. I wanted to be a tough guy. So, needless to say, I got the shit beat out of me a little bit more, and the final round was over and I lost the fight. And the next couple days I was punchy. It's when you're about to feel like you got drunk. I had knots all over my head. I had cuts on my forehead. I thought, man, that guy must have took the stuffing out of his gloves. It wasn't until 30 years later when I was talking to my old coach, because I left him after that because I kind of lost confidence in him, but I would go visit him. He was going to turn 100 years old in a couple months, and I said, Coach, I said, George, you remember when that guy beat the shit out of me up there at the prison? He said, yeah. He said, I walked over and looked at his gloves, and he had a half a horseshoe in his gloves. I said, well, why in the hell didn't you say anything? He said, because they had been rioting at the prison, and he said, I didn't want to start any trouble. I said, well, that makes sense why I had cuts on my forehead, and I felt like somebody beat me with a damn bare fists. So I didn't quit, though. I kept going. But I did lose confidence in him because I thought he should have stopped the fight, so I went on and started fighting in St. Louis. And that's when I really run into some tough guys. Those guys that I started sparring with were ranked #1 in the nation. It's an amateur. There was some professionals there that were in the top 10 contenders. And I got knocked down 2 or 3 times every week. They just beat the crap out of me. I would come home and wonder if I was going to wake up in the morning because I was so beat up. I couldn't breathe through my nose. I'd wake up in the morning and my mouth was dry because I was breathing through my mouth and my tongue was cracked. My nose looked like it was never going to be straight again. But I wanted to be a tough guy. I wanted to be a fighter. And I did. I fought until I was 32 years old. I was like 17-1 as an amateur and 2-0 as a pro. I only had 2 pro fights. I had a car accident, I got whiplash, and I kind of ended my boxing career. But I loved fighting, but it was frightening, scary. Once you got in the ring, got hit a couple times, that was it. So through the years, though, I've managed to stay in shape. I've done triathlons, I've done marathons. I still spar with my sons when I'm able. I have some neck injuries, and I still work out. I'm 62, and I'm in excellent shape. But I persisted in all those things. I really don't know why. But what I'm telling you this for is because you too can be whatever you want to be. Those were dreams I had, and I accomplished both of them. I still have other dreams that I'm working on now. And there's other dreams that I've had and accomplished those. I wanted a big family. I've had 10 kids. I have 6 now currently from one woman, and I've raised those kids by myself in the last 12 years. 5 still live here. And when I look at those kids, the photos that we took of ourselves on Christmas, I can't describe to you the feeling of fulfillment that I get from that. Because that's another dream, another goal, another vision I had a long time ago. As a man, you have a dream within you, and until you pursue that dream, you will never have the fulfillment and the joy and the ecstasy that comes from living a life pursuing your dreams, your visions, your goals. It's not when you get there. It's the journey, and it's the memory of the journey. I can look back on my life, and I've had some hard times. I've had to leave this country because they were going to arrest me. I had to leave kids up here. I had to leave another country and leave all 6 of my kids there because they were going to arrest me. False accusations. But I had to leave, never knowing if I were going to see them again or not. But I persisted. I believed in my dream, and my dream was to have a family. It didn't turn out exactly as I wanted it because I wanted my wife with me, but she decided she wanted to run and party. So she's been gone. She regrets it now, but that's the way it is. I made the choice I had to make at the time. I did everything I could to make it work, but it just wasn't meant to be. And when it was all said and done, my life is exactly how I'd like it. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change all the seemingly terrible things that happened on my journey. And my journey's not over yet either. But it takes all of that to make a fulfilling life. I look back on all that and I can it's like precious gold. I can cherish that. And you can have a life like that too. And as I said, I'm only 62. It's not over. I still have dreams and goals that I'm fulfilling right now. And for a man, don't worry about happiness. Happiness is temporary, but fulfillment is lasting. You can feel this way, and that is there even when things aren't going your way. We had some tough times here a little bit while back, a couple months. For some reason, all the work just stopped. A little bit of a struggle. All my money is invested. I really don't have any ready cash, but we managed to get through it. And even during that time of struggle, I could think about the wonderful memories I've had, the goals I've achieved, the journeys along the way, and it gives me a feeling that I can't even describe it. But if I could give it to you, I certainly would. I remember when I would get some good drugs back when I partied a lot, I would call my friends up and have them come over because I wanted to share that with them. And if I could share this with you, I would give it to you. But what I can share with you is the knowledge that with persistence, you too can have a life as fulfilling as mine and even more fulfilling. I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm just telling you that life is not stupid, boring, and glum, and it doesn't have to be a life of quiet desperation. But it's up to you. You have to dig deep. You have to pick yourself up when you feel so depressed and lost and empty and disillusioned that you don't know what to do. Maybe you're even contemplating eliminating yourself, self-deletion. You have to get up and press on and put one foot in front of the other. And if you do that, I'll guarantee you the time will change and things will get better. Maybe you've just broke up with your woman. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe she's running you through the divorce ringer. I've been through that, man. I've been through that. I've been through false accusations. I've lost my kids 5 or 6 times. I mean, I could tell you story after story. But if you want to know, read the book, Coming Back Home, The True Adventure of Mark Daniels on Amazon. I tell the whole story there. And I came through all that. By the grace of God, I came through it all. And as I said, during those times, it looked terrible, like there was no hope, like I had no chance of achieving. This house I'm in right now, I lost back in 2000 because of the divorce and custody battle. I'm here today. I've been back here 8 years. I bought it back, and I finished the work that I started. It's a beautiful place now. It was only half done when I left, but I was able to finish it when I came back. And I still, as I said, I have more dreams, more goals, more visions. And you should always have another goal or vision. Because when you get to the end, when you finish your goal or your vision or you accomplish your mission, there's something else for you to do. Now your mission and your goals are different. Your mission is kind of a life purpose. My mission is to inspire, enlighten, and build up humanity. To inspire you is what I like to do. To enlighten you sometimes doesn't sound very inspiring, but we have to accept reality as the way it is, for what it is. And then we can change it. We can change our view of reality, our perception of reality, and the way we think about it, and then reality will change according to what's going on the inside of you. And you have complete dominion over your mind. And if you don't, you need to learn how to do that. And you can do that by exercising your mind through reading and small exercises where you use your willpower to not take that extra bite, or to not take that drink, or to make yourself run 1 more mile, or a few more steps, or to take that walk, or to wash those dishes. Just small things that you don't want to do. If you can take your will, unaided by caffeine, drugs, or alcohol, and make yourself do those things you don't want to do, that builds up your will. And you'll find out after you do them, you feel better about yourself. And as a man, that's what it's all about. You want to feel good? Do the things that are in front of you that you may not want to do. If you hate your job, either learn how to like it, like my dad said about peas. When I told him I don't like peas, he said, learn how to like them. Today, I eat peas probably twice every day, my favorite vegetable. And you can learn how to like that job, and if you don't, on your time off, instead of sitting and watching TV 4 to 6 hours like the average American does, learn a trade, learn something else, start an online business, do something else. There are many opportunities here in the U.S. If you hate your job, do what you know you want to do inside of you that you're afraid to do, that you've logically rationalized away and come up with reasons why you can't do it. You would not have that in you if you weren't capable of achieving it. So remember, you can do it. You have everything within you to accomplish anything and everything you've ever wanted to do. A true desire. If you'd like to get my help personally, you can contact me at marksinspirationalguidance for a consultation, or email me at marksinspirationalguidance@gmail.com. I'm on Rumble at Mark's Inspiration. Check out my books on Amazon, Coming Back Home, The True Adventure of Mark Daniels, and The Power is Within. Every Saturday night we have a podcast at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, but not this Saturday because I'm going to watch my son's box. 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, The Dragon Ship on Saturday. We have that every Saturday. I'm on that. Check us out there. You'll like that. We have a panel. And that's it for tonight. Thanks for joining me. And thank you to my 1,657, we are growing, subscribers. Why would I be here if it weren't for you? Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. And we got a journey and a mission, and we're going to get there. Take care.